Good evening, and thank you again for coming out. I really appreciate it. I know we've been looking forward to a strategy Zoom for a while. I just had to take some time to get my head around the planning because I realized it really would be too much to do everything in one session. So this is part one of the series of strategy meetings and discussions that we'll have. And tonight we're going to focus specifically on what I have decided to call the through and through strategy. So in short, it's T'nT because it really is quite powerful. So I'm excited to show it to you guys in a presentation. So the Flexi Income Plan, as you guys might have heard me say before, is called the Flexi Income Plan because it really is quite flexible. And that's exactly where the power lies and why we can have so many different strategies with this one product. So tonight we're going to look at a strategy that I like to call the through and through strategy, when you literally come in and out in the same day. And it might sound a little bit counterproductive to some of you, but I think for most people in this Zoom tonight, this is probably the strategy that that I can recommend to most clients, just because it is so doable, even on the smallest scale, up to the largest scale, and we'll look at the different examples tonight. It's so doable and so effective, and I really want to, spend a decent amount of time looking at the strategy tonight. So the first thing I have to get out the way is just a disclaimer. Recently, people have been asking me, oh, but you're a financial advisor, aren't you? And can we get some financial advice from you? So I just want to start this off by saying I am not a financial advisor. It is definitely not what I was born to do. I am a good talker and all of that, and I love details, I love systems, I love this product and the company, but I am not qualified or licensed to give you financial advice. So this presentation tonight is because I am a very satisfied, happy client, and I have made myself an ambassador of the product wherever I go. And so what I'll be showing you tonight is based on set product specifications. It is based on my experience, and it's based on examples using projected rates of return. And if you need any financial advice regarding your portfolio and percentages and what is a good strategy for you, in the space in your life, please reach out to us if you need to get in touch with an experienced, qualified financial advisor. I can speak about the product and what it can do, but how it fits into your portfolio really is up to you and professional advice. Okay, this is something that I'm really passionate about, and most of you, if you've ever been on any of my meetings or had a one-on-one meeting with me, you'll hear us going on and on and on about buying assets, which obviously is why Blue Asset Group has its name, is because we firmly believe in buying assets. And this is not a new idea. This is something that has been followed by, surprise, surprise, the richest people in the world have been focused on buying assets. And then teachers like Robert Kiyosaki, Warren Buffett, those guys have been teaching us for ages to buy assets instead of liabilities. Now, the problem comes in where none of us have any financial education at school level. Our parents didn't have it, their parents didn't have it. And if you don't go study something financial or in the investment space, you won't learn this stuff. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say, I think even if you do go into the financial space, you'll probably still be taught how to play with money in terms of liabilities and expenses and those kind of things. So this is something that is not my idea. It is something that I learned over years of experience and learning from mentors who understand assets. So most of you will have heard me also refer you to the Robert Kiyosaki cash flow quadrant. So on the right-hand side here, we've got the image that depicts the strategy or the teaching by Robert Kiyosaki of the cash flow quadrant. So it works left-hand side and right-hand side. Where we start, most of us, is top left corner, active income, trading your time for your money. I work 8 to 5. If I work overtime, I get more money. If I take a day off, it's unpaid leave. So I swap time for money. I have a job. So my time equals money, and I have no leverage. There's no way that I can leverage anything to make money for me. I am the leverage. My time is the leverage. Okay. So that's where most of us find ourselves. And it's a really tough place to get out of. And tonight I want to show you how we move from the left-hand side of it. Even you'll see self-employed at the bottom there. You own a job. You still have to work. If you go on holiday for 6 weeks, then your self-employed, self-created job still doesn't earn money. So you still have to be there. You've got no leverage. So tonight we want to start moving over at least onto the right-hand side of the quadrant, where we start getting some leverage on something. So the next step from being self-employed would be to be a business owner, where you have employees that work for you and make money for you. In other words, your leverage is other people's time. Okay, now I can go away for a week and my business still makes money because I'm leveraging other people's time. Okay, so that's now a great step in the right direction. But you're still not getting a passive income and you're still not leveraging assets and accumulating assets. Okay, we'll see a little bit more about assets on the next slide. So how do rich people, wealthy people get wealthy in the first place and stay wealthy? It's because they never spend their income or capital on liabilities and expenses. We're taught either by just learning from our environment, learning from our parents, or at school, possibly, that a house is an asset, and a car is an asset, and a laptop is an asset, and your cell phone is an asset. A laptop is only an asset if it's making you money. Anything is only an asset if it's making you money. Your house, if it's not making you money, it's a liability. Your car is most definitely a liability because it loses value so fast, except if that's your business. Okay, then you're on the right-hand side. You're a business owner, the vehicle and another person is making money for you. Cool, now you have some leverage on that. But it's still a depreciating thing. It's not making you money. Okay, so we want to buy real assets. What classifies a real asset is, we'll see that on the next slide. What classifies a real asset is if it makes you money. Now, there's a principle implemented in Blue Asset that the last 2 points on the left-hand side here will say rich people only spend, or wealthy people only spend profit generated by an asset. Okay, this is referring to a first profit. It's even better if they can make an asset work twice before they spend the second profit. So our Blue Asset model is absolutely based on never spending capital, always buying assets, as we should, okay? And as far as possible, not spending a first profit, but reinvesting the first profit into another asset and then living off or using the second profit. If you use your first profit, there is another slide in another presentation that you might have seen. If you use your first profit, what will you use to grow your asset value with? The only way you can grow your asset value is if you reinvest your first profit and then earn a second profit. Now you're growing your asset value. Okay, so there's a lot of space, a lot of room for growth in all of our mindsets and all of our own financial lives to eventually get to the point where we can all live off a second profit that is generated by two sets of assets. Okay, but of course we have to start somewhere, and tonight this presentation is about where do we start. What is one option of where we can start? Okay, so how will you move from employee or business owner to an investor? The asset definition here, an asset is something that puts money in your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. Okay, that is a very straightforward explanation, and we can apply it to all kinds of examples, but I think that's pretty much simply put. Okay, on the right-hand side, we have these two blocks. The majority mindset is what we've been speaking about. We use our income, we make money with whatever we're making money, and we buy cars, we pay bonds, we buy clothes, we go on holidays, and then by the end of the month, we're broke. And then the only way to get more money is to sell more time for money, to work for money. So we never actually get to any accumulation phase. The minority mindset on the right-hand side, follow the arrows there. It says make money, buy assets, buy things. The third arrow goes from buy assets back up to make money. So notice that your first profit comes, your income buys the asset. The asset pays your income. Okay, because the asset is the one that makes the money. You always have to also have a percentage of your funds that go back into growing your asset value, which is built into our blue asset system. You don't have to manually do this. Okay, all right, so I hope that gives you a bit of an idea of where we're going with this between the past two slides. So how does blue asset come into this whole thing? Okay, let's look at an example. Many of you will have heard me use the example of one of my clients. I'm not going to mention his name. One of my clients that has, in a very short period of time, put away a decent amount of money for his retirement and is looking at retirement in the near future, whereas just more than a year ago, he had no hope of retiring. And he's been following this strategy, which has obviously been the thing that's prompted me to do this presentation tonight. So without blue assets leverage, what is your option? Okay, so the example I've used is a person earns $1,000 this month. And this person can afford to invest 20% of their income. Okay, this person's obviously making a commitment saying, hey, of my $1,000, I'm going to put away 20%. It's $200 a month. And that's going to be my retirement or my savings or my investment amount. Okay, leaving them with 80% expendable income. Okay, so remember these amounts. $1,000 is the income, 20% is what they put away, and they get to spend, more importantly, the 80% is what they have liquid. Now, in a 12-month period, they can buy $2,400 worth of assets if they put away 20% or $200 a month and spend only 80. Okay. If we bring in, when we bring in blue assets leverage products, okay, and someone again today asked me, can't we just invest the amount, you know, the capital amount without taking a loan? And there is a very good reason why we don't do any investments without leveraging first. Leverage is absolutely the secret sauce to what sets this product apart from any other product in the market, okay? So if we apply blue assets leverage to this $1,000 a month earner, a person earns $1,000 a month and can afford to have 80% of their income for living expenses, okay? They still need the 80%. Therefore, with Blue Assets product, they can invest their full $1,000 every month into assets and withdraw their upfront 80% profit back to their bank account for living expenses. They're now still using 80%, same as above, but the difference is that instead of investing only the 20% they have extra or have put aside, they're actually investing 100% of their income and withdrawing 80% back. So bottom line, in your bank account, you have 200 or 20% less, you have $200 less, bottom line in your bank account. But in actual fact, you've saved a full 100% and you're using an 80% profit. In other words, this month, this person is going to pay their rent for free because they haven't spent their capital. They're going to buy their groceries for free because they haven't spent their capital. The capital is still invested, leveraged, and will be re-leveraged for them. Okay, so in a 12-month period, if a person follows this strategy using Blue Assets leverage, they can buy $12,000 worth of assets that'll be working for them. That's $9,600 more than the strategy above, where they have exactly the same amount to spend. Okay, so while this person, if you don't understand the blue asset leveraged and re-loans, then we should have a conversation about that. Watch one of the previous videos. But while this person is spending that first upfront 80%, the profit fund will be repaying loans and producing the second 80% and the third 80% loan, all based off their capital investment. In other words, yes, in month one, you will be spending your first profit. Remember, just previously we said don't spend the first profit, you know. Here, we're spending the first profit in month one. But our second profit, our second 80% is going into investment to produce a second profit. Our third 80% is going into investment to produce a second profit. So only in month one are we setting this back by a month. Or by a while, okay, by a while until we get that. But as soon as your reloans start working on day one of your investment, you will start producing your second 80%, and your income plan will be topped up while you have already paid your expenses. Okay, so practically, what does the flexi income plan actually look like normally, and how are we manipulating it to fit this strategy? Okay, the flexi income plan normally, starting from the left, you make a deposit of 100%. We can stay with the $1,000 example. The 100% or the $1,000 is deposited and used to buy an asset. The asset then produces a loan profit, an upfront profit in the form of a loan of 70 to 80%. Okay, now you'll notice that I drew a line here and called this side on the left part one, because this functions completely separately from part two, which is your income plan. So on the left, we have a deposit, buy an asset, take a loan. Now that loan amount, the 70 or 80%, comes across to part two of the product, where it's invested in the income plan, and that gives you a monthly income of 2.5%. This is the basic blue asset product. If you're on the Zoom tonight or this evening, afternoon for the first time and you've never seen this product presented, this is it in one screen. Okay, you've got a deposit, buy an asset, we take a loan profit. The loan profit is invested, which gives you an income. The only thing not depicted in this slide is that we consistently re-leverage your assets as we pay them off. In other words, the process of loan profits going to income plan, loan profit going to income plan, all the time, there's money crossing the line from part one to part two. That's the only thing that I've not depicted here, but that is a non-stop ongoing process. How have we adjusted the product or manipulated the product in order to suit this strategy? Very simply, we're only playing with part two of the product in order to do the through and through strategy. So what happens is at the end of the month, the person that's earning the $1,000 brings their $1,000 here, they buy an asset. The asset is leveraged and a 70 or 80% loan is taken to the income plan, but they now withdraw the liquid capital from the income plan straight out to their bank account. Okay, so part one of this product remains intact. You still, after having withdrawn your 80% or your 70% to your bank account for your rent and your groceries, you still own the $1,000. And as you go and spend your 80%, Blue Asset undertakes to start repaying the loan against your asset. And if we're taking it in the example of a house, let's say we've broken your house up into rooms and you have 50 rooms in the house, which would be a lovely house to live in, not to clean though. If you have 50 rooms in your house, we focus on room number one first. As soon as we've paid off the loan against room number one, we immediately loan against that room number one again and put another 80% in here. So now you can see that even though you've spent your first 80% on your overheads for the month, we will make sure by leveraging and re-leveraging every room in your house, we will make sure that this empty jar starts filling up again. Without you having to compound or add any extra funds, we will fill this up again. Now, what happens next month? Maybe there's a few cents in here or a few dollars in here from the reloans. You come in with your $1,000 salary, you do the same thing. Now, month two, you have $2,000 in assets. Last month, you bought $1,000. This month, you bought $1,000. So you now have $2,000 in assets. Your total loan, you've got 80% on the $2,000. And we take that to the income plan and we withdraw. You continue doing that every month. Over time, you will have accumulated a huge amount of assets. Each room in each house that you buy, digital house that you buy, we put a tenant in it and we make sure that that loan is repaid so we can top up your income fund over here. So that means that as we top up the income fund over time, you will start replacing your monthly $1,000 income through this product because you have bought assets that will keep paying you. And this is what my client has done, the one I always keep telling you about. Just more than a year ago, he started doing this with his income, and he is now actually at the point of planning his retirement in a year or 3. I'm not exactly sure about his timeline from now, because his income plan has started replacing his income because he's bought all the assets. Okay, one little disclaimer that I need to mention here for the guys who are new. I know that it's clear from the picture, but just note that in month 1, when you withdraw your 80%, there is nothing in your income plan. So will I receive a monthly income from this plan? No, because it's emptied out. We have to then wait for the reloans to start topping up your income plan. Okay, cool. So that makes it accessible to pretty much anyone who earns an income, anyone, even if it's just a rental income. I get 10,000 Rand a month out of my rental income. I spend that on my house or on whatever it is, but I can bring that 10,000 Rand through Blue Asset first, and just start with your rental income. Just start with your state pension. Start with your whatever it is, and a smaller amount. Or if you're in a fortunate position where you can put away 20% or come away with 20% less off your salary at the end of the month, that's a great place to start. But what if you can't put away 20%? Okay, what if you really need 90% of your income to come through the month? Well, then you take half of your income and you put that through Blue Asset. Okay, so let's take the $1,000 example. If you've got $1,000 and you need 900, you can only let go of 100 every month. You take $500. $1,000 earner can send $500 through the flexi income plan and get 400 back. 80% of 500 is 400. Okay, so the 400 added to that 500 that you didn't bring through the product gives you a $900 spendable amount in your bank account, but you have bought $500 worth of assets. If you do that for a few months, maybe let's call it a year, 2 years, I don't have the maths in front of me right now, we'll look at them. If you do that for long enough, eventually the flexi income plan is going to start paying you $100 a month. What that means is you now are back at your full $1,000 a month in your bank account. So if you want to up a level, you can then go, okay, cool, the flexi income plan is giving me back $100. So what I can do now is I can actually double my monthly investment. This allows you to increase your monthly asset investment to the full $1,000, giving you back $800, but supplemented by $100 from Blue Asset. In other words, you still have 900 in your bank account to spend at the end of the month. Okay, so if you can't start off immediately by coming away with 20% less of your income, start with half of your income. That gives you a 10% cut on your bottom line in the beginning, and eventually you can get to the full amount still with a 10% cut because you're now supplemented. If we take it even further, what if 90% is not enough for your expenses and you actually need 95% instead of so in other words, you can only put away 5% of your bottom line. Well, then you divide that in half and you put away a quarter of your income. The same math, I'm not going to read through it all over again, but the same math applies. You send $250 through Blue Asset, you get 200 back. Add that to the 750 that you had, that you didn't put through Blue Asset, that gives you a $950 to spend. So you've only got $50 that you put away. In a certain amount of time, in a whatever amount of time, the Blue Asset income plan is going to start paying you $50. So that means you can then up your game and start putting away half of your income. Once the Blue Asset Flexi income plan pays you $100 a month, cool, now you can go to 75% of your income. Okay, so systematically you can build until the Flexi income plan itself helps you get to the point where you can actually run your entire income through Blue Asset every month. Okay, can we break it down even further? Yes, we can. So what if you were able to take your cell phone bill, okay? just your cell phone bill. This could be your DSTV bill, it could be your cell phone bill, it could be your insurance payment, it could be your gardener's salary, it could be anything, okay? One of your monthly expenses. Take that through Blue Asset. So if my cell phone bill is 800 Rand, can I afford to pay an extra 200 Rand on my cell phone bill? So I put 1,000 Rand through Blue Asset, I draw back the 800 into my bank account, and I pay my cell phone bill. So now I've bought 1,000 Rand worth of assets, my cell phone bill is paid, and I've only actually spent an extra 200 Rand. But I've got 1,000 Rand asset to show for it, okay? In the next 12-month period, your cell phone bill would have helped you put away 12,000 Rand worth of assets, where without this product, your cell phone bill would have only cost you about 10 grand, okay? So this is how you turn your everyday expenses into an asset. How you turn around from being an employee who spends income on liabilities every single month of your life. This is how you start turning around to working your way through to becoming an investor, okay? Yes, it's going to take some time, but it would not have been possible in the amount of time that Blue Asset would have done it without our leverage and our upfront 80% profit, okay? So you can start with one bill, and over the next few years, progress and progress and progress as the income plan starts supplementing your income. You can eventually also get to a point where you can put your full income through here, okay? All right, so how difficult is it to do this? It sounds pretty complicated. It is absolutely not. If any of you have ever done this before, just give us your feedback maybe in the chat box. How easy is it to do a deposit, an activation, and a withdrawal all in one day? It really is quite simple. Of course, we will walk you through it. We've designed a little self-help guide that can take you through all of these steps. Yolanda and I are always here, but you literally have 4 steps, and you can do this in a period of 2 to 4 days, 4 days being maximum, okay? Only if banking takes long will it, if the bank transfers take long, it can take 4 days. But if we time it right and we're efficient, you can have your 80% back in your bank account the very next day, which is what happens most of the time, although we can't guarantee it, okay? So basically, you're going to make your salary lands in your bank account, or your rental income lands in your bank account, and you do an EFT to Blue Asset. Little tip there, do an immediate transfer. It's going to save you a lot of stressing over time periods, and it's going to cost you $5 or $8 or whatever it is. So do an immediate transfer. It helps us be efficient, okay? Activate the flexi income plan of your choice. It's probably going to be one of the standard ones if you're lucky enough to be one of our longer standing clients and you're a premier. Cool, go for the premier. And then your next step is to withdraw the funds from the income plan to your wallet. This is an instant transaction. In the past, it used to take 24 hours. They've upgraded the system. This is now an instant transaction, okay? So from the time when your USDT lands in your wallet, you've done the activation and you've done the withdrawal, and the funds are back in your wallet, ready to withdraw to your bank account, can literally be all in the span of 10 minutes, okay? This is a really quick process. As I said, it's just banking times on either side that can delay the process. All right, so this is a very achievable goal. Just make sure that if you want to do this, if this is something that can work for you, take into consideration if you get paid on a Friday, it's not going to happen over the weekend. So, it's going to only happen on Tuesday. If you need to pay your bills by the 30th, don't do this on the 29th. And if there's a weekend in between, make sure you go closer to the 25th. Okay. All right. So that is something that you need to keep in mind. And then obviously minimum investments apply. So you can't activate less than $50 at a time. Your initial activation is a $250 minimum. Your subsequent activations are $50 at a time. Okay, so that's about 1,000 Rand or 1,000 Namibian dollars. Okay, so thank you for listening to that. I'm trying to keep this as short as possible. You guys, I'm going to stay on the presentation in case we have to go back to a slide. Please put up your hands if you have any questions. I would be more than happy to answer them for you.